Let's go. Let's go. What's up, DCTV? Good morning, my fam. We have some amazing topics to talk about today. We got so much going on, and we're not going to waste any more time getting into it. Let me welcome everybody in the DCTV show this morning. We got our usual suspects. We got Greg. We got Jaime. We got Tam. And Don's also in the house this morning. What's up, people?
Yeah, there we go.
What's going on, everybody?
How we doing?
Outstanding. Another great day.
Yeah, the market's trying to bounce back a little bit after Friday and yesterday were pretty abysmal. We got the S&P that's up around 18 points. The Dow's up around 127. NASDAQ's up 84 points. A little bit of a pullback from the highs that we saw this morning in pre-market. I'm looking at Bitcoin right now. That's also sitting around now back up over 20K. It's up around 2%. So just still teetering around in that range that we've been talking about for quite some time. Oil, however, also just been super volatile. Right now, it's down around 2.5%. Yesterday, it was up 4%. So that's all over the place too. And that's the market right now as we head into the open here in about 29 minutes. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to get into that. But before we do any of that, how's everybody else doing?
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's not Monday anymore.
You like Mondays?
I should, Monday should be your best day. We really have no excuse. If you have a shitty Monday, that's on you. It really is. You had all day Saturday and all day Sunday. So it's on me, but at least it's not Monday.
It's recovery Monday sometimes for some of us.
Yeah, you had 2 full days to get right for the work week. And if that's not done, shame on you.
I saw something.
Maybe you got over right.
Maybe.
Something said if you wake up super early Saturday and Sunday, you get to sleep in before you go to work on Monday. So like if you normally wake up at like 7 on Saturday and Sunday, wake up at 3. That way you get to like sleep in and be excited for the week.
Nice.
I haven't tried it yet, but it makes so much sense.
I don't know, man. I feel like the older I get, the longer it takes to me to recover from any kind of bender. So it's like even if I party on a Friday night, Monday's still rough.
Yeah, I did that the other day. I got out of my hot tub and I was like, I just go from like the weight list to like, I felt heavy. I was like, this is way too much. It's like I'm just can't do this anymore.
And the pace quickens as we grow older, gentlemen.
Oh. Maybe it doesn't happen to guys the same way it does women. I don't know. But did you guys ever have this awakening? Usually it happened to me like in my late 20s where you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm done with this party life. Like yeah. I'm seriously done. Most people can remember when it happened. You kind of roll over and you're like, man, I need a new chapter, bro. That happened to me. And yes. I feel another one. Ever since I hit 40, I'm like, there's another chapter in here somewhere. I can feel it. And
usually we can identify what helped us. For me, it was gin that night that helped me. I'm like, I'm done.
Figure it out.
Again. And by the way, who's this person next to me and what the hell is that for?
Seriously. And that's kind of what you end up in some shady ass situation and you're like, this really is the last time.
Hanging out with Dante, I'll get that for you. By the way, happy birthday to Dante yesterday.
Happy birthday,
Dante. He's one of our partners at Medify. An amazing guy, which everyone will meet soon.
Is he in his 40s? Has he gone over this, or is he?
Oh no, he's well over it. Yeah.
Okay.
But he can party.
He's a guy. I was gonna say, he's still 25 at heart. That's for sure.
Yeah. Dude, in resistance. I think he swallows a block of butter before he invites any of us. The rest of us will.
Bro,
bulletproof.
I got some friends like that when I was in Puerto Rico last week. They're all in their 40s, and none of them came home earlier than 3 a.m. every night we were there. And I'm like, what? I
can't.
I was asleep before midnight, but one night. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. Some people just have it in them, man.
No.
You might want to start the benders up again. You might need to do that to prep.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into some stuff today. So as the title revealed, could Bitcoin replace the dollar? And so I wanted to kind of start off with a couple articles that I just happened to check out last night. as I was just kind of scouring through, trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about today. And Yahoo Finance put out for MoneyWise, could China's yuan replace the US dollar as the world's dominant currency? Here's the Asian nation's trade supremacy is rapidly boosting its reserve status. And I thought this was a very interesting article, and it prompted me to put out a poll. So if you can see this here, you can go check me out at Own the Chaos on Twitter. I put out a poll, what's going to replace the US dollar first? And this may or may not be surprising to some of you, but the majority of the people voted that nothing is going to replace the dollar, which I thought was interesting because before we went on air, Jaime, you actually scoured through the article a little bit and talked about how global currencies have changed over the years, and that not even, and I'm sure that at some point there was a lot of civilizations that felt as if their currency was just going to be the currency for the foreseeable future, that there was not going to be anything that would topple them. So I thought this was very interesting that still the majority of people think that there's nothing that could actually touch the dollar. Maybe they're right, but I think that it's worth having a conversation that what happens if it's not, and where does it go? Could it be the Chinese yuan, or could it be something like Bitcoin or Ethereum? And that's kind of where I wanted to start our conversation today.
And let me put some of the history, which is in the same article you brought up, Brad, is examples of, and please note what triggers the change of a global reserve. It says since 1450, there have been 6 major reserve currency periods. Portugal dominated the global reserves until 1530. So that's about maybe 80 years when Spain became stronger. Currencies issued by the Netherlands and France dominated world trade for much of the 17th and 18th centuries. But the emergence of the British Empire made the pound sterling the reserve currency until the end of the First World War. So usually you'll see it is dominance. It is whoever's in power, wherever the trade, the dominant force power in trade is usually the one that dictates, or the standard used by the earth, by the all the nations as a reserve currency, as we well said. So that
it's a popularity contest.
Really,
does it not follow mostly where goods are made, though? Where the goods are produced?
It follows who's got the biggest guns.
yes, because
Yes.
Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, and France were conquerors. They were colonists. They were empires. So they were the ones taking the material from the spices and everything else that came with it, gold in Latin America. So they're the ones that dominated the commerce at that time. Seeing China's rise is to really dominate. The big question is, okay, what will the trigger be? Will it be commerce? Will it be war? What will be that trigger? So in the same article, we see how Russia and a few others are aligning with China at this moment as a reserve currency as a hedge against the US dollar.
Right.
Well, what choice does Russia have at this point? I mean, they don't have a whole lot of friends. So, I mean, I definitely see that point, but I think, Russia, right. Yeah, that too.
So they can actually transport money and goods across their borders over land.
Well, and it's interesting because if you look at fiat, just money, the US dollar has a monopoly on violence. That is what our dollar represents, 100%. It's just the truth of the matter, right? I mean, we just absolutely hold a monopoly on violence. So until somebody wants to try and topple that, the dollar will remain in effect. Now, does that not mean that we maybe one day can have some Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies on our treasury balance sheet? I think we will, right? I think that's the first place that Bitcoin goes once it is finally adopted. I think it's going to get to a point where you just simply cannot ignore it any longer. So I do think there's a place for it on our treasury sheet, but a full-fledged overthrow of the dollar, I don't know if that one's going to happen in our lifetime, boys.
I'm with you, Tim. What
was interesting is there was a video about this that I watched, and it was actually a pretty good video. It was, I hate to shout him out, Andre Jick, I don't know, but he brought this up. He's talking about the dollar and the currency getting replaced every 200 years. Like about every 200 years, that's about the shelf life of it. And we're at that mark, and I forget what would cause it. And not that he even said, but I was trying to think what I was thinking at that time that even sounded good. He was talking about how there's the Satoshi. We already have a measurement system of Bitcoin, so it would be easy to make the transfer. But as far as will Bitcoin, what's the title? Replace the dollar? Mm-hmm. I bet when we're done with the dollar, we've printed off too much. We'll throw it out with the bathwater because we got some brand new shiny thing, and it'll be our decision that we did that. It'll be once it's worthless and someone else might take over. If they see the yuan getting any traction, anybody gaining any traction, that rumor mill, I bet we will adopt something new. It'll be our idea and we'll still be in control.
Yes, whoever's in power usually is the one that pushes it, like the Bretton Woods Agreement that occurred after World War II, where that's the first time they set the global reserve formally to be the dollar, but it was backed by gold at the time. And of course, abuse occurred where now other nations, all right, here's your dollars, give me my gold. And now in 1971, we were removed off the gold standard and put onto the petrodollar. So you can see these changes, and you also see, there's a bit of information there.
The petrodollar is mathematically impossible. It's like SpaceLink or Starlink. It's just not going to happen. You can kick the can down the road for a certain amount of time, but that is very much some backward math.
Yeah, and so I'm with number of things in our chat where it says Bitcoin will never replace the dollar. It's going to be very difficult to do that. But Bitcoin, I see it as a hedge of store of value. Just like gold, you can't do commerce with it, but you can, if you offer gold to a Chinese person, they'll be like, yeah, I'll set Remember aside for a moment and I'll take your gold for this good I just produced. So it's very hard to transport, and there's a lot of difficulties attached to gold, but it is a store of value. The advantage of Bitcoin in that sense is that it can be transferred anywhere on the planet, from wallet to wallet and privately, until you identify who owns that wallet. You really don't know where it belongs until the exit into fiat is usually how you can see who owns it. But the ease of transfer or retention of your store of value, you can even, as we've spoken with wallets, write those words down for your wallet, put it in a book and cross a border, and then on the other side, restore your wallet. You can even throw away the ledger or whatever cold storage you have and reconstitute your store of value and sell it in the open market in whatever country you went to. So I do see number of things point in terms of it will become a hedge, and it is currently a hedge. I'm using it as a hedge against the US dollar towards the future.
Why would you need to sell it overseas?
So, for example, in the sense of, if you were in Ukraine, and this actually, I have to find the article where it happened, but there is a businessman who, when the war broke out, he couldn't transfer his money, like cash out. So he converted his currency into Bitcoin, put it on a cold storage, and then he couldn't walk out. If they would have seen the ledger or seen any of that material, they could have confiscated it. If he couldn't walk out with gold either.
They got X-ray machines.
Pardon?
I said, do they got X-ray machines?
Well, you never know. I mean, they'll rob you, mug you across borders, especially if you're a refugee. In my family, I have family members who have been refugees out of Cambodia, out of China during the Red Revolution. I've witnessed it while I lived in Latin America. So this situation, us in the States that live in the States have never experienced a moment where all your goods, everything you're worth, everything you worked for can be taken from you. So Bitcoin gives you that power to retain your store of value. And he literally grabbed a massive book and just highlighted his words, but highlighted the whole book. So when the guards would check the book, it just looks like he's intellectual and just had notes on his book, not realizing that in that book were his 24 words to reconstitute the wallet. So now when he gets into Germany or into Europe proper, he was able to reconstitute and now convert what he had converted to Bitcoin into the local currencies, and of course pay his taxes and everything, just because when you transfer to fiat, no matter what country you're in, there's a report to their IRS and you pay your taxes. So that's the functionality as a hedge that I see in Bitcoin that is not available as easily in gold. Trust me, I own gold too, but it's easier to transport Bitcoin.
Yeah. I think this is actually a perfect segue as far as the hedge is concerned to our next topic. And I tied these two together to just kind of keep with the theme for today's show. And then we can get into some other stuff that you guys have brought to the table. But this article from Barron's kind of directly ties into what we were talking about with the China's yuan and could the dollar be replaced? Because right now, the dollar is super strong. And article came out from Barron's last night about the dollar possibly getting even stronger, and why that could actually destroy the global economy. And to your point, Jaime, Bitcoin could solve that issue, especially if you are not exposed to the US dollar. You do not hold dollars in general. Mike Green, portfolio manager with Simply Asset Management, doesn't mince his words when it comes to fresh currency risk. Continuing dollar strength has the potential to really destabilize global markets. And he says that it's way too early to worry about a full-blown crisis, but adds that a lot of people in his world, the macro world, are talking about the dollar and its impacts. And we've already seen this. And Don and I have seen this firsthand, especially as traditional investors, with tech companies in general and the foreign exchange rate actually hurting their bottom line. We've heard this from Microsoft, Salesforce, among many others. And it seems as if the dollar is continually getting stronger and could impact a lot of things globally. And, you know, to the conversation that we've continued to have this morning, Bitcoin seems to kind of be the great equalizer in that. Is that an accurate statement to make?
I think so. That's why I said I think it has a place on everybody's balance sheet. And Jaime, with what he said, just reemphasized that, talking about its transportability worldwide. There's no place on earth it can't reach as long as you have an internet connection, and even that's debatable. But there's a place for it on your balance sheet because you can transact anywhere in the world when needed immediately, and with very little interference. But replacing the dollar altogether, that's Peter just said the dollar's too strong. We have the monopoly on violence. I don't think it's gonna overtake the dollar, but there is a place on it for every single treasury book in the world.
But is it too strong to the point to where we're in danger of the dollar collapsing? Because eventually other economies are going to be like, fuck this. We're gonna do our own thing because this is just getting too ridiculous. Because now the dollar just goes so far everywhere else that our currency doesn't go anywhere. Is there a situation something like that happens? I guess
that's almost traditional supply and demand. They'll just once they start fading out and can't afford our stuff, then they will probably start backing off. You'll see us lower rates at that point.
Yeah.
I think all we're doing is we're raising rates just so we can drop it again. I think Powell's just collecting a couple of bucks real quick.
Yeah.
I agree.
We'll drop it back down. Go ahead.
To your point, Don, exactly. So from the outside, the safest economy or the most stable, the perception from the outside is the US. Mm-hmm. So if I'm an entrepreneur or a business person or an investor outside the US, and I see the interest rates rising, I would choose to send my US dollars or convert my local currency into the US dollar to place it into those high yielding or better yielding and more secure investment vehicles. The problem that triggers is the fact that now it strengthens the US dollar to such a degree that other countries around the world, it becomes too expensive to do business with the US. So it's almost like a catch-22 that occurs in that situation is what I've seen occur.
Yes, Indo-Crypto says a lot of third world countries don't want to have to rely on the dollar. But right now, like when everyone's crap, we're talking about a global catastrophe on our hands. Like that's why I don't think the yuan's going anywhere. Like China needs to get their own crap out. Like before we talk about them doing anything, yesterday we're talking about how much just of a crap hole they're in right now. But before that happens, like where do you put your money? And right now, if they're all crap, which one's the shiniest? And it is the dollar, and it's been the dollar. So it's going to be very hard to dethrone that.
Right.
The big issue here is that a lot of the nations are burning through foreign currency reserves to pay for higher price imports because of the dollar. And at what point are we going to see some sort of? At what point are we going to see something break? I guess. And what's the alternative, or is it just that everything just drops, including the dollar, and then we kind of equalize somewhere? We come to some sort of equilibrium somewhere.
And
That's the most likely. Yeah, a rising tide floats all ships, and it's the same when the water goes down too.
So it becomes top heavy. The global economy becomes top heavy at that point, and usually that's when conflict or a big black swan event or some massive event will tip us over to the next iteration, whatever that new shiny thing is. Don well said. That pops up.
How far away do you think we are from that something?
I think that 2023 could certainly be an interesting year because of the rate hikes and how when I say rate hikes, I'm talking about Jerome Powell and the Fed raising rates and how that impacts global markets. He had actually mentioned in Jackson Hole that rate hikes don't really take effect until about 9 to 12 months after they are implemented. And that's in the U.S. markets. And so it takes a little bit longer even on the global scale for that to take effect. So I think that 2023 could be that year in which we see a global recession. A lot of people have kind of griped and complained about rising prices right now, but I don't think it actually gets any better. And I think that the actual recession both in the U.S. and globally, could be very possible next year.
Hopefully.
That
Got to rip the band off at some point.
Yeah. And that's what takes us back to Bitcoin to me, at least it brings me back to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, is the ease of entry and the ease of exit of Bitcoin specifically in this case, because it is very transportable. So if a situation occurs, that black swan event or that event occurs, it is something that will ease the pain of transition into whatever that new shiny thing is that Don mentioned. But it will not be the dollar though.
Now the question for me would be, if we do see a recession, a global recession in 2023, Peter and yourself, Don, and even me have talked about how we could see Bitcoin make a hell of a bounce going into the end of the year as we get maybe closer to around November. And it could really start to take off. But if it reacts to the rest of the market as it has been over the last couple of years, in particular to tech, could we see Bitcoin also be stunted on its bounce if something like that were to occur? Or could this be a bit contrarian in which we see Bitcoin kind of go the opposite direction as the rest of the market? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like both. They used to say gold was, you can't call it an inverse of the dollar, but they used to say that when the dollar goes up, gold goes down. And in traditional cases, yes, but then there's outliers where it becomes this, where is it safe? Where can I put my money? And then just the demand of the shiny objects come into play. So while gold's rising, or while the dollar's rising, so is gold. So I don't know. I think it's that.
I'm with you, Don, 100%. For example, the fact that, let's say, inflation or deflation or whatever the global macro problem is, Bitcoin was created as a deflationary asset, and it was done during the 2008 craziness. So by design, it was invented or created, one, as a protocol for money, but two, as the hardest asset on the planet. Meaning you can still mine gold and add it to the stock, the global stock. Bitcoin, 21 million, that's it. And it just, I always keep going back to this one, but look at the largest hedge fund on the planet, BlackRock. Why aren't they running with all the other big investment firms with ETFs? No, they're actually going into the spot Bitcoin. Why? Because that's ownership of the Bitcoin itself, not necessarily a futures, a contract to it. So I think once we enter the global situation, which involves anything with inflation, finally the lights will come on just by the science. It's just logic. That's when Bitcoin should have its watershed moment and now go against the trends. But of course, like gold itself, we've seen ETFs kind of hold it in place or hold it in check globally.
Yeah, because no one cares.
What's up, Indo Crypto? Indo Crypto's got some good comments on this as well, and I think he and I are aligned in a lot of what he's saying. Again, he's saying it's not going to replace a dollar, but there is going to be a place on the balance sheet for worldwide commerce through Bitcoin. And he brings up El Salvador, which I was also thinking about as well, because they're a great case study in will Bitcoin work on a global scale. You're talking about a country whose native currency went into the absolute toilet. So their solution to fixing their economy is to buy up Bitcoin, not just Bitcoin, but offer bonds and basically have an entire country that operates on a Bitcoin standard. It's a very strong stance to take, but it's going to be very interesting because now, again, what you have is the ability to trade on an equal level with every economy in the world. That, my friends, is a threat. That's a threat. So I think what you'll see is some sort of, I don't know if it's going to happen through NATO or through some other sort of under the table military threat where we can use Bitcoin worldwide for one thing, but it will be written very clearly that you must use the US dollar or the petrodollar or whatever else they come up with for every other transaction in the world, which will also keep the United States as a superpower, as the superpower. So I think you're going to see Bitcoin use worldwide, but I think it will be regulated in the sense that it will only be for certain goods or services. And then you have to use the dollar for everything else. Otherwise, you get bombed.
What a good sound.
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, let's just be realistic. When will this happen? I don't know. Maybe in our lifetimes. I think Bitcoin's something you just can't ignore. So I think we will see some sort of worldwide use here.
I bet the next 10 years.
Yeah. And yes, Peter, Indo has seen the MetaFi facility. He knows it's real and alive.
And that's the beauty Indo Crypto is that you actually saw the mining rigs, what we're doing at MetaFi, and it changes when you actually touch or see the device and you actually left your signature on the panels where our first batch of miners, ceremonial miners, which we'll expand on that at a later time. But El Salvador is also looking to mining Bitcoin. A lot of people are like, well, what happens when we run out of 21 million? We mint the last Bitcoin. What people don't realize is that when you're mining, and mining fulfills many functions, but one of them is securing the network, of course. But also there's transaction fees, which in today's rates are infinitesimal. Sorry about the word. So they're quite small, and everyone's running for Bitcoin as they're mining, as the reward. But as Bitcoin rises in value, now those fees will justify the existence of the miners back in, I think the last Bitcoin is scheduled to be minted at 2,152.
Something like that.
I'll be long gone from here, so it'll be my brain.
Outside of supercomputers, right? Or what's
quantum computers?
Yes, but a lot of people bring up, hey, quantum computers could hack that shit. No,
they can't.
No. Wait. If they did, by then we would have applied the Bitcoin engine into quantum computers. So now not even quantum can keep up. So if you think about it, technology will be implemented to keep this store of value safe and secure.
Market's open.
Market's open. Sorry about that.
Let's go to markets. But think about it, guys. There is a hedge out there. Put some in it.
Yeah. Speaking of hedges, and these segues have been great. So, Jaime, this is something that you actually brought to the table, and this is from your home state. How Texas Bitcoin miners kept raking in profits during crypto's crash. Grids actually paying them to shut down mining. And there are some really huge Bitcoin mining facilities in Texas, as you know, and in Oklahoma. And this is very interesting to see that utility companies are paying miners to actually shut down so that they can support infrastructure in other ways. I thought this was a fantastic story. You have the floor, my man.
Okay, so what's amazing, and I love the business acumen of states like Texas. I wasn't born there, by the way, guys. So but
I was.
there you go. And my children were born in Texas, so I got there as fast as I could. Okay.
Thank you.
What it was over the Rio Grande, right? Isn't that what you took a trip over that?
No, I flew
To the country of Texas, the best country in the country.
and it was not an import into Texas. So, but we'll get into those details later. But the beauty of how Texas implemented mining or applied mining or allowed mining into their grid, and Greg will go into more detail on that one, versus where we're at in North Carolina. But Texas is deregulated. So you can come up with deals with the electric company and the organizations like ERCOT and IRR, I think was the other one, where if you bring your miners into the state and start consuming, using the electricity, because keep in mind, electric companies must generate revenue. Well, mining generates revenue for the electric companies, but they can come up with mechanisms. And this article is amazing. I won't go into the full details, but I'll just give you the gist of it. And there's different structures that they come up with. One of them is, okay, if usually in summers, let's say from July till September, the hotter periods of Texas, they came up with an agreement where if the grid, in other words, the households and the businesses that need AC and any other to consume from the grid, Bitcoin miners can throttle down or even shut off. But when because it's deregulated, they can action let's say, Riot blockchain with their Windstone partnership in Rockdale, Texas. They can actually bid out if they're using 3 megawatts or 100 megawatts, whatever the wattage is, they can actually auction out, hey, you want megawatts? I'll auction it off to you, the market. Whoever pays me the most, that's whom I issue I'll shut down my miners and issue that. And it's gotten to about $1,000 per megawatt, which is quite a bit of money. So they recover. So even if you shut down your miners, the electric company, the deregulated electric company, will pay you to bring it down so they can service the others. So it makes the electric grid a lot more efficient. So I wanted to get your input, Greg, because you're our demigod in this side of the Mississippi.
So at the end of the day, mining stabilizes the grid. Any grid that it's on, it doesn't matter, right? It's capacity is there, it's ready to go. And mining is pretty much flat. If you have 3 megawatt of miners, that's how much power you're using all the time, versus a data center, which has peaks and valleys based on whoever's using the app at that time, or streaming, or whatever service that data center is providing. So with this, they know they've got 3 megawatt capacity. The energy providers able to stabilize their power output, optimize where they're at, and run more efficiently because they're constantly putting this on the grid. Now, when they don't have that demand specifically for the mining, they have it already available for whoever else needs it during whatever crisis or weather event that's going on, right? So it makes it very easy for the power company to standardize on operating costs and know that their power is going to be used no matter what, right? And there's no wasted energy sitting in the grid. It's being consumed as it's being produced.
Absolutely. And Duke Energy, who's our provider in North Carolina, is very ESG conscious, green also. So it's a great partner. And that's what are the benefits we get, Greg, in terms of, okay, what if we throttle down? How does that work in terms of benefits?
So we participate in load shedding, which means that if called on by the power company, we will go down to whatever value we have specified, right? So if, let's just say we have a 3 meg contract, they may come to us and say, hey, we need you to go down to 1 meg for this time period because of this weather event that's coming in. Most of the time, that's what it's going to be, is a weather event.
Now,
Whether
let
it
me
be
ask you a
hurricane.
question with that. What if we don't? Because this leads into something else. What if the Duke called and said, hey, you guys are at 3, we need you to throttle to 1? What if we say no? Then what?
Hey,
Then we do not obtain the credits that we're going to get on contract. So we're getting a better rate year round by participating in this program. We may only be called upon once every 2 years to actually participate in it. It may only be for 2 hours, but it can get us 1 to 2 cents off our kilowatt per hour rate.
It's crazy because I'm thinking back to February of 2021 when the big winter storm hit Texas from the Uri weather strip.
I had refugees in my house.
Okay, exactly. I did too. I wasn't here. I was stuck in Mexico with the Rona, but I wasn't there. But my grid was connected at my house in Waco is connected to the police department's grid. So I didn't go down. So people I didn't even know that my neighbors wanted to throw in my house because they had a newborn baby. I said, go ahead, because I didn't lose power in my house. So Jaime, I'm with you. I had some refugees as well. But my point is this. That week that Texas shut down due to a winter storm that Texas is not prepared for, the amount of shit that Governor Greg Abbott took because of that failure was justifiably extremely high. Fast forward to February of 2022, 1 year later. The reason I bring this up is because you know damn good and well this winter, if we have another freeze, that grid better not go down. And I'm talking from a political statement. The one thing that won't happen under Greg Abbott's watch again is that grid going down the following winter. So my question is, or was, what happens if we don't throttle down? Now, from a political standpoint, think of the money now. Oh, we'll shut down if you pay us 9,000 kilowatts an hour, right? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Where you have, okay, it's credits on one end that you're talking about, but now these companies that can stabilize the grid, now they really hold the power in this moment. So there's like this crazy game going on of, we need you to shut down. Okay, what are you going to give me? Past credits. Because you can't let the grid fail again, sir. Right? Think about this.
But if you look at what's been transpiring during that time, because mining came into the picture, it created a guaranteed revenue to the electric companies by mining. So they know, like Greg clearly mentioned, they know if we want 30 megawatts. So data centers, yeah, peaks and troughs. You see a lot of that. And Greg, my apologies, viewers, that we don't have the graphs, but it is amazing to look at when Greg showed me how power was used by a data center versus Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin lights up, boom, it hits the level and it's level. So now imagine you're the power company with guaranteed consumption. You can actually start investing in your infrastructure knowing that you're getting paid this amount. So you can make a lot of improvements. If this goes back down and it goes, then, okay, what were you, electric company, doing with all this guaranteed money you were receiving? Why were you not reinvesting into the grid? Now, in terms of the auction, like pay us or not pay us. In the case of Texas, they put it out in the open market. Whatever the open market was willing to pay for it, that's who got the influx of power. Here, it's under contract. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg. So
Yes, it's under contract.
So if we do not comply, we, Medify, will be paying a lot more for the electric. So it behooves us to kind of comply in that sense.
This is why you
Yeah.
never should answer the phone call in the first place. Never went under contract. They got their foot on you.
But
I
hey,
mean, you
guess
say
what?
it goes out to the open market, but the open market is also the state of Texas saying this thing will not go down. We will pay an absolute premium to make sure that we do not go down again for a second year in a row. That's
Well,
the open market is the state
at the end of the
damn
day, the
Texas.
power company has their finger on the trigger, right? And if somebody
Mhm.
doesn't want to comply and do it, oh, I'm sorry, you're in an outage right now. We'll let you know when service will be restored. I
That's a
mean,
good point
it's
as well.
games they can
Solar
play as well,
panels.
right?
Yeah, that's a good
So-
point. But
Instead of
fun.
credits, have them pay you in solar panels. Why don't you come in here and hook something up?
Yeah, sure.
Like, accept that. Or call Elon. But leave it alone. I would never shut my miners off. I was like, nah.
By the way, Don, you're not wrong. We have been in conversations to do exactly that. So
That's what I
Yeah.
would.
I'm gonna give Pink Energy a call and let them come out. Let Jason come out.
Yeah, there's a lot. I every time I try to find a miner, like last time they were like 30 grand, and couldn't find them. But I have solar on my house. I was just gonna keep it going, and I just want to borderline build what you guys have, but in my backyard. Just gonna keep it going no matter what.
you know
Well,
what?
stand by. Our R&D channel might give you something pretty interesting to look at.
yeah.
And it involves our birthday boy, who we wish happy birthday today.
Oh, Dante.
Yes, he's brilliant with this, and
Yeah.
we're not going to give you any more. You better keep watching, everyone.
Good stuff, guys.
So,
this has
Jaime,
been-
Bob's got a good question on here. If you want to swing and answer at this one.
There are so many ways.
Oh,
To
yeah.
support. I mean, number one, get engaged. Join us. We put the Discord. If you go to themedify.co, you'll see socials at the top. So if you have a preferred social channel, jump on that. Get in there, where we have all of our conversations everywhere from mining, staking, music, whatever, tokens, shitcoins, Bitcoin, everything. It's in our Discord. That's where we communicate daily, constantly, when we have the opportunity. That's a way getting engaged. Why? Because you now will co-build with us. We will all build together, because 1 + 1 = 3 is the philosophy here. If you get engaged, so we have Indo Crypto who came to see us, Boston who came to see us. There's so many people that have come to see and leave realizing that this is way bigger than all of us put together. But when we come together as a community, man, for
Sky's the
example,
limit.
yes, absolutely. I'm an old Bitcoin.pub and original decentralized TV viewer, not participant, but viewer. But I got engaged to see how the hell can I contribute. I came from the telecom world, but I didn't quite, but I kept at it. I kept communicating. I got into mining itself to understand what this is and why do we do this and how do we even get paid. So join us, find your niche, and you will find a group of people there within that construction or within that field. And we're also doing raises to build and leverage. So an opportunity we have now is the market is going down. Everyone knows we have certain buys at certain prices below. Knock on wood, it hits them. But this is the opportunity to invest, to actually get involved. Not financial advice. Do your own research, of course. But now's the time when it's depressed, when no one's watching, for us to build. Now's the time to put, Warren Buffett even said, when there's blood on the streets, that's when he invests. There's a reason he's one of the
Right.
investors on the planet. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tim.
Bob. Yeah, Bob. Like right now, the best way, like Jaime said, and it's up in the chat now. Go to the medify.co, get on our website, join the socials. If you can find a niche that you think could help us, and it can be symbiotic relationship wise, throw it in there. But do know that at the Q1 of 2023, we have some major stuff coming up that Jaime touched on as far as certain raises, but also we are planning our facility grand opening in Mooresville, North Carolina for Q1 of 2023. So as that gets closer and more finalized, we're going to send out an invite to anybody who might be around the North Charlotte area to come out. So you can see everything one-on-one, see things firsthand, meet the whole team. We'll all be there. So we'll definitely keep you updated on those happenings.
And by meeting all of us, you guys haven't met Pablo. You haven't met Data Lord or Brandon.
I may quit that. They just want to meet me. Stop all that.
Yeah.
All that.
Please remember, it's not Tampa, okay?
Don, we're gonna fly you out as well because everybody.
heck yeah.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
And that's what we want to do, is build that community. We all resonate with someone on the channel, even though it's right after Tampa, in terms of popularity.
Listen. We got a big problem with flying Don, because Don don't fly.
Really?
Oh Lord!
Wait. In my room,
There's got to be a train.
I've been driving 6 hours to Dallas back and forth. So
Somebody pick Don's ass up, please. Don's little baby ass. I won't fly.
I drive just fine.
What are you, Mario Baracus? I paid you the fool. What's
Somebody
going
pick
on?
his dumb ass up. He'll be here.
I drive just fine.
All right,
I'll
so
beat the plane. By the time you guys spend an hour at the airport, I'm probably already there. So
As long as you bring the piano, boss. Don's gonna play us a little 1-2 on the baby grand in the opening as well.
I'll bring something.
So here's what I'll do, Ken. I'll fly to Dallas, drive down to Waco, pick up some product, share it with Don, and all of a sudden he'll wake up over here. So
Yeah, there you go.
That works.
That's hilarious. All right, guys. What a fantastic show we've had so far. Let's round it out with something that Tamp's brought to the table, and it's the ultimate PR
Dude,
press release.
wild.
Eminem and Snoop Dogg performed as Bored Ape NFTs at the MTV Awards. I don't know if anybody actually watches the MTV Awards anymore, but this story was actually really interesting. And the Bored Ape, the Eminem Bored Ape, actually looks pretty dope. But why don't you go ahead and expand on this one, Tam?
Well, and here's the deal. If you're looking at this like this doesn't apply to me, just give me your attention for 2 seconds. Because very much like whenever there's a presidential address and every single channel that is available on TV is taken over by that address, me and my fiance were just hanging out at the end of the day watching TV, and every channel was MTV Music Awards. And I'm like, do they even have these anymore? So just because of the overall splash of it, we turned it on. Okay. And it's everything you expected. It was absolutely awful. But here's what I noticed about it. It was absolutely gut-wrenching to try to watch 5 minutes of this thing. But here's what was cool. Not at all surprising. As soon as Nicki Minaj came out and they had to beep, 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 just bleep her all over the place, I was like, what is this? But this is what was wild. So they had like a home base central stage, wherever that was. I'm going to assume it was in LA somewhere. But anytime they wanted to introduce a musical guest, they went virtually to another city where a real stage was set up, and they had like a mini concert at multiple different cities all over the place. And one of the virtual stages that they went to was this article, was to Snoop Dogg and Eminem in the music world, older performers, okay, that are now in their business mindset. Anybody who doesn't think that Snoop Dogg is not an amazing entrepreneur and businessman is not paying attention. And Eminem now, he's not in front of the camera, he's behind the camera making more money than he ever did as Slim Shady, right? So these are businessmen now that have represented themselves as NFT avatars to an audience that understands it. Okay, that is a big deal. This is America and the world's future generation. And they are using NFTs right now for entertainment. And these are NFTs that were paid, you paid $500,000 or more dollars for these NFTs. And they are being used to entertain our future. And this is their current form. So the writing is on the wall of what NFTs mean, what they're capable of, and the audience that will understand them when they are making decisions in the business world of America and the world as a whole, right? So this is why it was so amazing to me. You're talking about millions of dollars and artists representing themselves to an audience that gets it. So what does it mean for me as a parent, as a retiree, as a homeowner, as maybe a high net worth asset, whether it's exotic cars or any other collectibles? If I'm that owner, what does this mean to me? It means that NFTs are going to be the future of your asset ownership one day, just like the asset ownership shown in this virtual concert, right? It is coming. The writing's on the wall. So you don't have to like it in this form. I didn't, but see past that. Don't miss the forest for the trees, right? I thought this was just an amazing example, not only of NFT ownership and applicability in this case, but also the advertising that happened with this. They were advertising gaming systems through this NFT concert at this millennial award show, right? Like think how big this is. It's a huge writing on the wall of what's to come with the future of NFTs, and not just in the music space.
And of course, there's scams in NFTs, but do not, like Tam said, do not miss the point. Is that
message?
Yes, and NFTs do become. It's like the copyright certificate. Eminem owns his NFT, which he animated. Snoop Dogg owns his NFT, which he animated. If you want to make sure it's his, go look at the copyright. Right.
It is.
You can verify. You can actually verify his public address to the NFT. Yep, this is Snoop Dogg. Yes, this is. So it's a way to validate copyright, validate ownership, validate. That's what NFT's true purpose when they were built.
Yes.
Not just a little snapshot that I can take off anywhere. It actually has a function in society. And the fact that we have huge stars using these as a demonstration, that's what, Tam, I'm with you. I love Snoop Dogg as a businessman, as a musician too. I've always known him, but as a businessman, God damn, he is
legit.
Yes.
So this is calculated, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, don't look at, screw MTV. Don't look at it like that. These are two multi-millionaire businessmen that are using NFTs in an appropriate environment, in this case, to make a ton of money, advertising as well. Now think about when you're the owner of an NFT one day because you have a Bentley or you have a certain firearm that's a collectible and it's owned as an NFT. What can you now take as your NFT that you have whole ownership of? Where can you plug it in, like Snoop and Eminem did here, to make a ton of money and further influence, right? Like it's really telling to me about what's coming in the future.
And Snoop acquired Death Row Records just to convert it into a metaverse label. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Yep. The writing's on the wall, right? I mean, it's real. It would behoove anybody listening to this, anybody listening that can hear this, just learn about NFTs. Just learn. Yes. Go to our website, themetify.co. Click on our social links. There's NFT sections in Discord. There's NFT stuff, and just broaden your mind on what the heck is an NFT and why does it matter? Because it's coming. Start now learning.
So when they raid my house for firearms, I can say they're all just NFTs. They're not actually real.
Hey, you hide them where you need to hide them. All that's showing is ownership. Mine are hidden at the bottom of the ocean. I know
as
that.
They're handcuffing you, show them the NFT. I own these. So it'll prove that you own this AK-47 that's in your closet.
But I mean, like, it's. Are you kidding me? Like this is an NFT. That's an NFT. I'm doxing myself, but that's an NFT, right? Like, we're not going to need these soon enough at all.
Put it
zero.
Down.
Yeah, no, it's all good, but zero, right? Like, and it's all going to be on a watch where you're like, oh, well, here's my DD. That's my NFT. You scan it, and it's everything that you need to know and prove ownership of right there. It's
so
you know what I mean?
Fungible token for anyone entering. What is an NFT? A non-fungible token. It is something that cannot be broken down into pieces. This whole thing represents this phone, for example, the certificate of ownership of this phone. So when I sell this NFT, I'm actually selling the phone that goes with it. Is one of the purposes and intents of NFTs. They represent a whole of whatever the analog is in the digital world. So that's the beginning of it. Get into Discord with us and let's deep dive.
Yes.
Does Shaquille O'Neal own an NFT yet?
I haven't checked.
He's got to. I mean, he's got crypto. I mean, he was part of the Tornado Cash, people throwing Tornado Cash money at his public wallet just to try to get it banned. So if he's into crypto, he's got to be into NFTs. I mean, I hold an NFT that wears a Kobe Bryant jersey, and I'm holding on to that thing because I know it's going to be worth something in the future.
Yes, Shaq owns several Ethereum-based Creature World NFTs.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
And he launched his own NFT collection, Shaq Gives Back.
Well, there you go. That's how he got his shoe brand started, guys. See? That's why he's in Walmart and dropped Nike, because he wanted to give back. And his shoe brand, one of the best business decisions he ever made was to drop Nike and start his own label and put his shoes in Walmart to where every single person could afford it that wanted to afford his shoe. Now he's doing the same thing with NFTs, a way to give back to everybody who wants to learn, anybody who wants to get involved. Why? Because it's inevitable. The writing is on the wall. That's why we brought this article up, because it's a scream into the future.
And
I'm really pumped for NFTs in general, only because the art side of it is certainly has tons of value. But what you would just kind of laid out, Tamp, with your driver's license, like house deeds, anything that is in paper form right now that we won't need in the future, like a house deed living on the blockchain. So it never gets lost. It never gets manipulated. There's no forging of signatures, right? Like
exactly.
That kind of stuff. The actual application is something that I'm actually excited for, and the value that it adds in that capacity. Sure, the art stuff, the trading card type stuff that we're seeing, especially with like Bored Apes and that sort of thing, it's certainly going to be there. But that's the actual use cases is what I'm really excited for, and the value that's really going to add for society. Just the impact that it's going to have as a whole.
I agree wholeheartedly. And the best thing you said in all of that was the inability to manipulate it, right? And there's so many things you can think of in your life right now that you do not want manipulated, right? Medical records, school records,
anything with a title.
That ownership of anything, right? That you don't want manipulated. Watch, one of the last things that gets adopted to NFT status is voting. Why? Because you can't manipulate it.
Right.
Right. There's so many things in your life that you could think of that you're like, this is mine, and I do not want anybody to mess with it, forge it, all that sort of thing. Your future is NFTs. Your answer is NFTs. So jump on our Discord and start engaging and learning about, how can this be used in the future? How will it be used in the future? Just learn about them more, because they are inevitable. That's why.
And by the way, Indo Crypto said that is pretty much my Web3 job, is auditing NFT Web3 projects. And guess who's in Discord? Indo Crypto.
Ask him questions. Engage the man.
Yes.
Engage him.
You will find a lot of members, and he's actually visited the site as we've mentioned. So if you immerse yourself into this, you are immersing yourself into the future. So
yeah. And that just on Thursday, we're actually having a guest. Dr. Jay Campbell is going to come on, and he's talking about NFTs and how that's generating him passive income right now. So stay tuned. That's coming up, and he's going to tell you how somebody our age is generating, $800 to $1,000 a month simply by holding certain NFTs, and how he got involved with it.
That's right. All great stuff. All great stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. And the only way, I wouldn't say the only way, but one good way to remind yourself that we will be going live with him on Thursday is to hit that notification bell. So make sure you're doing that. Hit that like button as well, and subscribe if you're not already. We'd love to have you guys in our community as well. So make sure you're going to the Medify.co. We would love to have you guys there and continue to help us grow, of course, on the DCTV side as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go find Tamp. And you can see that that Jaime also has his Twitter tag there on the bottom left there. You can go find Greg and Don Fran at the Don Fran Show. You can find me at Own the Chaos on all of your favorite social media platforms. Guys, another great show. Really appreciate you taking the time this morning. And thanks to those of you who are watching as well. We'll see you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Have a good one.
Have
Let's
a good
go.
one.
See you guys.